Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on the QAFP examination. Thank you for participating and showing your dedication in furthering your educational path to becoming a financial planning professional. My name is Paulette Anthony, and I'm the Director of Examinations at FP Canada. In that role, I oversee FP Canada's certification exams and corresponding exam policies with an approach utilizing best practices for high-stakes testing programs. I've worked in professional testing for more than 2 decades with a history of overseeing planning, development, execution, monitoring, and quality control for all components of examinations in professional environments. Presenting with me today is Veronique Shanks. Veronique has worked in the financial industry for 20 years with a focus on investment and insurance products. Veronique started volunteering with FP Canada in 2009 and is now contracted with FP Canada for technical content work. Otherwise, she's a busy mom of 2 teenage daughters and a big golden doodle named Nugget. Naomi Sinclair, our exam administration coordinator, has administered exams for the past 6 years at a multitude of organizations and is passionate about standardizing candidate examination experiences and quality control. We do have a lot of material to cover today and might not spend as much time as you'd like on a particular slide. But don't worry, this webinar will be available for your review in approximately 1 week. Let's take a look at today's agenda. Today's webinar will provide you with details on exam format and registration, exam day preparation, the QAFP exam structure and software, some sample questions, the practice exam, and common mistakes and tips. Let's dive in with a look at the exam format and registration. Naomi?
FP Canada offers online proctoring and in-person proctoring at test centers for candidates writing the QAFP exam. When completing your exam registration application, you will be asked to select your preferred exam format and location. FP Canada's test administration partner, Measure Learning, administers the in-person exams, and its ProctorU division administers the online proctored exams. Please be advised that in February, the exams will be available through online proctoring only. The options for either online proctoring or in-person proctoring provides candidates with flexibility and convenience and ensures all eligible candidates have access to write the exam. Before deciding between an in-person and online proctored exam, there are some things you'll want to consider. A list of currently available locations can be found in the exam application, but note that some locations may not be available for every exam. Test centers may also have their own specific requirements, and these will be communicated in your admission ticket, something we'll discuss later in our presentation. Before selecting an online proctored exam, you'll want to carefully consider the requirements to participate. This includes meeting specific technical and system requirements, as well as ensuring your testing environment can remain quiet and free of distractions during the exam. We'll be discussing these requirements in greater detail later in the presentation, and they are also available in the guide to the QAFP exam. However, in considering how you would like to write your exam, it's important to know that you as the candidate are responsible for meeting the technology requirements to write the exam via online proctoring and that there are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet the requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or write at an in-person test center or register for a future exam sitting. If you choose to switch your exam format during the registration period, for instance, if you selected in-person testing and want to switch to online proctoring, you may do so by updating your exam application in your FP Canada dashboard. Now I'll take us through some details about the QAFP exam administration, starting with details about the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP examination and other important exam day information. Exam security is extremely important to FP Canada. Good security measures protect our content and the integrity of our exam processes. But we sometimes hear from candidates that they were surprised by the rules of the examination. You should be expecting a strict environment with procedures and rules. You will be required to sign in, provide current identification, and adhere to the exam day policies. The FP Canada Guide to the QFP Examination, which is the administrative guide to the examination experience, contains information on what to expect before, during, and after the exam. The guide to the QFP exam can be found at the FP Canada website. When registering for the QFP exam, if you haven't already done so, you will be required to sign off during the application process that you have read, understood, and agreed to abide by the policies and procedures set out in the guide to the examination. What to do before exam day. Before exam day, you can review the FP Canada study resources available on your FP Canada dashboard. Although we do not provide recommendations to specific study guides, books, or courses, you will find a list of all of FP Canada's study resources on this page. It's the gateway to the practice exam, sample questions, this webinar, and other study tips and resources. For candidates taking an online proctored exam, as we've already mentioned, you must ensure that your computer meets the technology and system requirements. This includes having a functioning microphone, web camera, downloading the compatible internet browser or Guardian browser, having a compatible monitor, and an activated and compatible operating system. It is also strongly recommended that you use a personal computer for the examination. If you're using a corporate computer, that is your work computer, you'll want to review the additional guidance found on FP Canada's online proctored exams page to ensure your computer can install programs. If you choose to write with your work computer, we strongly recommend contacting your IT department to review additional guidance. Note that there are no exceptions for the technical requirements and that the candidates are responsible for testing their technology and system requirements in advance of exam day. We recommend that you access and use the examination tutorial to become more familiar with the exam software interface that you'll encounter on exam day. A link to the examination tutorial is available through your FP Canada dashboard and in the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination. You can follow the link, which will lead to a short online practice version of the actual exam software. This simulated version allows you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the exam software environment, which should add a level of comfort on exam day. Let's look at the tutorial.
If you have written the exam in the past, you may notice that the user interface for the exam software looks different. We are excited to announce that Measure Learning has implemented a new user interface that both enhances legacy features you may already be familiar with and introduces new capabilities, such as keyboard and screen reader accessibility. FP Canada strongly encourages all candidates to try out the exam software using the software tutorial, so you can become comfortable with accessing all the exam software features in advance of exam day. Let's look at some of these features now. This screen shows how a multiple choice question will appear on the exam software. It will include your choice of A, B, and C options, and although this example shows 4 options, the QAFP exam will present only 3 options. At the top of your screen, you can see your progress. Here we are in question 2 of 6. You can navigate through the questions with your cursor by moving from one of the numbered question boxes to another, or by clicking on the Next Question button on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The QAFP examination includes 3 case studies with related questions. These are presented at the end of the exam session. Candidates can have different strategies for completing the exam. Some might want to start with the cases, while others might want to tackle them later in the exam. You can choose to do either since the exam software will allow you to easily navigate among questions. The case study narratives are provided directly in the exam software. For those that have previously written an FP Canada exam, note that a separate physical booklet will not be provided. The corresponding multiple choice question sets are also presented on the computer testing software. Again, you will be required to select your response by clicking on the corresponding radio button. You can bookmark questions by clicking on the bookmark box in case you want to go back to it later. Here we can see that questions 1 and 3 are bookmarked, indicated by the teal ribbon. There is also a notes section that can be accessed by clicking the clipboard icon on the navigation bar. You may add notes in here to help you think through the correct answer. These notes will not be reviewed or graded. They are only for your own reference. At the top of the screen, you can also see the I in a circle on the top bar. If you click the I, you will get a pop-up of acronyms and equations. To change the font size in the software, use the slider on the top right corner of the navigation bar. To increase the font size, slide the bar closer to the big T. To decrease the font size, move the bar closer to the small t. At any time, you can go back and review and change your answers. Everything can be edited up until you submit your exam or your 3 hours for the exam session has run out. To submit your exam, you can click on the Submit Exam button on the top right-hand corner, but only when you are ready to submit.
Candidates are responsible for meeting all technology requirements for online proctoring and for installing the Guardian browser before their exam. Candidates must ensure their operating system is activated and compatible with the exam software. There are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet these requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment, write at an in-person test center, or register for future examination sittings. An unstable internet connection is one of the most common technology problems candidates experience on exam day. Therefore, it's strongly recommended that candidates connect to the internet with a wired connection via Ethernet cable. A wired internet connection provides a direct and stable internet connection, which should significantly increase the strength and stability of your internet connection. Please be advised that candidates who attempt to write from their work or office must ensure that their workplace internet connection does not block the ProctorU connection. If you're writing an online proctored exam, it's imperative that you prepare your testing environment in advance of exam day. It is your responsibility as the candidate to ensure that your testing environment is and will remain comfortable, quiet, and free of distractions during the scheduled examination. In addition to having a private and quiet location, you need to ensure your environment meets the following requirements. The walls immediately behind and in front of where will be seated should be clear. Landlines, non-required electronics, and any security or recording devices in the room should be turned off. Other household members should be informed of the exam date and time, and they should remain quiet during the examination and will not enter the exam room. The proctor will confirm that all requirements are met on exam day. If you fail to set up your testing environment appropriately or have interruptions during the exam, the proctor may terminate your testing session. Full details on setting up your testing environment can be found on the QAFP exam guide and on our online proctored exams webpage. You'll also want to ensure your computer station is prepared 30 minutes prior to the scheduled connection time to reduce potential connection issues. Again, it is mandatory that all candidates test their exam day computer prior to the exam date. If you are unable to access your examination due to a failure to complete the computer readiness check prior to the exam, you may be deemed a no-show. The first 15 minutes of the booked time will be used for the onboarding process with the proctor from ProctorU. You should begin the login process at least 10 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. Note that there may be a wait time for an onboarding associate during busy times. You should still stay connected if a delay occurs. Any onboarding delay will not impact the time allocated for exam writing, as the exam timer will only start once you've begun the exam. If you fail to log on in the first 30 minutes of your appointment time, you may be deemed a no-show and you may not be able to write the exam. All candidates will receive an admission ticket, and it will be available to you electronically approximately 10 to 14 business days prior to the exam. You'll receive this by email directly from our exam partners at Measure Learning. Your admission ticket includes important information, including your ID needed to log into the secure exam software, details for setting and resetting your password, and for writers at in-person test centers, any details regarding the location of your writing center, and any other specific requirements the test center may impose. For those writing in person, we recommend that you try to visit the test center and the specific room location ahead of time so that you are better prepared on the day of the exam and to reduce any stress in trying to find your exam location. If you are unable to find the room on exam day, look for the nearest information desk or for signage which should point to your exam room. For online proctored exams, if you're having trouble setting up your station, confirming preparedness, or connecting to the proctor, contact ProctorU Assessment Support directly. Their live chat is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Contact details for ProctorU can be found on the guide to the QFP exam on our website and on your admission ticket. If technical issues occur on exam day, alert the proctor immediately and they will be able to assist you. At in-person test centers, you can alert the proctor by raising your hand. During the online proctored exam, you can use the chat feature to contact your proctor directly for assistance. A frequent question we get asked is, what can I bring with me on exam day? On exam day, only certain items are permitted at your desk. For both in-person and online proctored exams, candidates will not be permitted to keep sessions at their writing stations, and they will be required to move them to a designated storage area. You'll be required to keep your admission ticket on your desk at the in-person test center, but if you're writing online, you'll be required to move the admission ticket out of arm's reach after the check-in process. And note that you should not write anything on the admission ticket. You are permitted to use an FP Canada approved calculator for the exam. Only specific calculators are permitted, and these are listed in the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP exam. For in-person exams, scrap paper may be used to make notes or perform draft calculations. This will be provided by the proctor and will be collected at the end of the exam session. For online proctoring, candidates are permitted to use a handheld whiteboard no larger than 8.5 by 11 inches and a fine point dry erase marker only. You will need to erase any notes or calculations in the proctor's view at the end of each session. Under no circumstances will you be permitted to keep your cell phones or any other electronic devices other than your approved calculator at your writing station. And please note that if your phone rings during the exam, you may be subject to sanctions, so please ensure it is turned off when it is stored in a designated area. Only religious headwear is allowed, so you will be asked to remove any other headwear such as a baseball cap or toque. The QFP exam is a 3-hour exam administered in one exam session. For in-person exam candidates, the exam starts at 9 a.m. sharp unless otherwise specified on your admission ticket. You are required to arrive 45 minutes prior to begin the check-in process, so by 8:15 in the morning. The in-person exams are scheduled to end at noon, and candidates are required to remain seated for the last 15 minutes of the exam so as not to create distractions for fellow test takers. For online proctored exams, please view your admission ticket or log in to the Measure Learning Yardstick platform to confirm your start time. Once the exam begins, for both in-person and online proctored exams, you will not be permitted to take breaks.
In the next few slides, we'll talk about the QAFP exam and share some information about the exam itself, including the FP Canada Blueprint QAFP exam and the concept of complexity. The FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for QAFP certification is the criteria for the exam. It provides a summary of tasks that FP Canada certificants would do in everyday practice and illustrates the multidimensional nature of financial planning. It details the abilities that a QAFP professional must possess and represents not just the tasks, but also incorporates the job-related skills, knowledge, attitudes, and judgments required for competent performance by members of the financial planning profession. This is a key document in your preparation for the QAFP exam, as each question is linked to a competency statement and is what is tested on the exam. The full competency profile document, it's found at our website, provides a detailed description and example of each competency statement, and also includes a matrix of the competency profile, listing all competencies and professional skills, which we will look at next. This page, shown here, details 2 collection competencies in the financial management area, describing the tasks of collects information regarding clients' assets and liabilities, and collects information regarding clients' current and projected cash flow. These descriptions will help you better understand the competencies and how they may be tested on the QAFP exam. You can use this information to focus your preparation and identify gaps in your competence and knowledge, and use that to research to help fill in those gaps. The matrix of the competency profile statement is included in the full competency profile document, as I mentioned, and lists all the competency statements as found in the full competency profile. And although the matrix may appear small on this slide, you will find it more legible on the website. Note as well that I'm only sharing here the first page of the competency profile matrix. Within the competency profile document, you'll have access to the full matrix. We'll take a closer look at this document on the next slide. Across the top, the matrix is divided into columns for the 3 financial planning functions of collection, analysis, and recommendation. In preparing a financial plan, client details need to be collected. Details can include information about the client's family, client goals and objectives, as well as the numbers like RSP values or debt balances. The collected information is then analyzed to determine the client's current situation, as well as any opportunities, risks, or concerns. Through this process, the QAFP professional is then able to address planning issues for relatively less complex client situations, and then present client-specific recommendations. You will note on the matrix that collection activities are divided into 2 columns. The competencies assigned as quantitative information deal with the numbers, like asset values or income amounts. The competencies assigned as qualitative information deal with the softer facts, such as clients' investment objectives or attitudes about retirement. Analysis activities are divided into 2 columns: assesses the client's situation under column 2.1, and considers and evaluates strategies under column 2.2. Recommendation activities are shown in 1 column, develops recommendations to help optimize the client situation. The competencies are sorted into rows for the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas, and those headers appear on the left margin of the matrix across the 2 pages of the document. The competencies listed in fundamental financial planning practices are tasks that are common to all of the financial planning areas. These are the abilities that deal with pulling everything together from all the different areas to come up with a client-specific financial plan. The statements of competency are assigned to the most applicable financial planning area of the 6 areas listed here, but of course, many areas overlap, which is not surprising given the integrative nature of financial planning. I encourage you to use the matrix and the entire competency profile document in your preparation. Work through each competency to understand the expectation of it and how you can apply your knowledge to demonstrate the specific competency. Remember, application of knowledge is key. A listing of the professional skills included in the FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for QAFP certification, that's quite the mouthful, can be found on the 2nd page of the matrix. These are the skills that speak to acting as a professional with clients and colleagues. They outline the professional responsibility to clients. The professional skills are sorted in columns under professional conduct, critical thinking, interpersonal, communication, and collaboration skills. Candidates are expected to have proficiency in the professional skills included within the competency profile. Those competencies assigned as professional skills will be integrated into at least 25% of the exam questions, and at least 10% of the QAFP exam will integrate competencies from the professional conduct section of the professional skills. To help illustrate this point, let's take a look at the collaboration skill 503. It reads, recognizes when to refer to qualified professionals to provide the necessary expertise. When a client may be seeking the QAFP professional's advice on estate planning, for example, and in particular the drafting of a new will, the QAFP professional would be expected to refer those clients to a lawyer. Some questions may also have an ethical component and could test issues such as client confidentiality, insider trading, or unsuitable investment recommendations, for example. The QAFP exam blueprint provides information on the structure of the exam and details how the competency profile statements are weighted. The QAFP exam consists of competency-based questions, which are designed to test your skills and ability to use your knowledge in dealing with a range of different client situations. If we take a closer look at the blueprint, you can see that the majority of exam questions consists of independent multiple choice questions. Case studies, along with their related multiple choice questions, make up the remainder of the exam. The exam consists of up to 90 items, and each question is a standalone item, meaning its answer isn't dependent on any of your responses to other questions. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark. The questions on the QAFP exam will test financial planning issues primarily at either a basic or moderate complexity level. There will be between 5 to 15% of questions with a high complexity rating. If we look at the concept of complexity, the level of complexity for an exam question increases if more knowledge is needed, or if there are more variables to consider, or if you need to integrate and factor in a number of different elements. The blueprint includes a description of the type of questions that may be encountered at each competency level. This page of the blueprint details the range of coverage weightings for financial planning functions seen in Section A, the financial planning areas detailed in Section B, and the level of complexity shown in Section 3. Each question on the exam tests a competency statement from the profile. It is tied to a function and a financial planning area and is given a complexity assignment. For example, if a question asks you to determine the client's cash flow shortfall in the event of 12 months of disability, that question would involve an analysis function in the insurance and risk management area and may be assigned a moderate level of complexity depending on the extent of the information to be analyzed. In Section A on the slide, you'll notice that the blueprint indicates a higher focus on the demonstration of the collection and analysis competencies. And as you can see in Section B, all financial planning areas are tested on the QAFP exam and show comparable weightings, which really emphasizes the importance of reviewing all topic areas when preparing to write the exam. Section C details the percentage of questions that fall under the basic, moderate, and high complexity ratings. The blueprint is meant to be a guide to help you understand how the exam's built and what to expect in terms of coverage. Now let's take a look at the financial planning body of knowledge. Technical knowledge is the first step for competent performance. The financial planning body of knowledge is essential to the demonstration of competence in the fundamental financial planning practices, and the financial planning areas of the competency profile. Knowledge around human behavior, decision-making, and relationships is important for the demonstration of professional skills. Appropriate levels of knowledge are required to do the tasks listed on the competency profile matrix. You must first have the knowledge before you can apply it in an appropriate manner to a particular client situation. The financial planning body of knowledge is found at the FP Canada website, and it details the technical knowledge required by you. It's the outline of what you need to know. And keep in mind that just knowing is not sufficient for competent performance. You will be expected to apply the technical knowledge to demonstrate your competency. The financial planning body of knowledge includes 12 knowledge topics, as shown on the slide, and within each topic there are a number of subsections. So let's take a look at some examples of how the financial planning body of knowledge supports the ability to do the tasks specified in the competency statements. Veronique?
In the competency profile, the retirement planning competency 1.117 in the collection column of the matrix reads, collects information regarding clients' potential sources of retirement income. To do this task and demonstrate this competency, you may need to have technical knowledge about CPP retirement pension benefits, but you will then need to know how to use this knowledge, applying it to a client situation in order to demonstrate this task. Here's another example, Competency 3.102 from the matrix, which is under the recommendation column in the financial management row. Reads, recommends optimal financial management strategies. An example here could be that the client may have cash available and wants the QAFP professional to recommend whether a contribution could be made to an RSP or to an RESP. In order to recommend the best option for the client, you may need to be knowledgeable about RRSP attributes, RESP contributions, as well as income taxes payable by the client. Then use this knowledge to assess the financial management strategies and recommend the most appropriate strategy for the client to help meet their goals and objectives. Now let's take a look at a sample question that ties together the competency profile, blueprint, and financial planning body of knowledge. Here's an example of a competency-based question testing retirement planning, competency 1.117. To correctly answer this question, you need to apply your knowledge about the splitting of CPP retirement income due to divorce. For this question, the correct answer is A. When answering multiple choice questions, such as this one, it is the knowledge that you learned in your approved education program and the application and use of that knowledge that have helped you prepare to write this exam. As stated, the correct answer is A. Application to split the credits can be made independently by Helen, and she will need to provide the required documentation. Although this question deals with one concept, it does require a more advanced understanding of the splitting of CPP credits with divorce. So it was given a moderate complexity rating. Again, this is a competency-based exam where you will need to use your learned technical knowledge in client situations. Since it is your use and application of this knowledge that is being assessed on the QAFP exam, there will be no questions asking for definitions or a simple recall of facts or figures. Remember, applying what you have learned is key. So how do you use this information to prepare for the exam and work on your success on the exam? Preparation, as you already know, is critical for your success. You should be prepared to take the exam by knowing what to expect and what is expected of you on exam day, as we have already covered. The first step in preparation is to become familiar with the exam. A deeper understanding of the exam structure and its components will help you develop a plan to prepare for the exam. And you can get this information from the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination, the Competency Profile, Blueprint, and other supplemental materials, which we've discussed. Develop a plan that provides adequate time for reviewing items related to each of the competency profile components per the test blueprint. Allow sufficient time to adequately review the core competency areas of collection, analysis, and recommendations from the competency profile and the financial planning components. I cannot stress enough how important the competency profile is to your preparation. It is the basis for the development of exam content, and each exam is linked to one of the competency statements included therein. The exam criteria is the competency profile, and you should use that as the primary document in your preparation arsenal. Review the competency profile with the exam blueprint to understand how the competencies will be weighted on the exam. Cross-reference the competencies and related knowledge with your education materials or other learning and preparation resources. In the course of your study, try to identify questions that could possibly be asked on the test. Practice exams should not be a substitution for other preparation, and learning, but can be a valuable tool as a component of your preparation. Try integrating ideas from your readings, lectures, and notes that could be used to develop practice questions. One recommendation is to practice using our practice exam and the sample questions available on the website. Unfortunately, not everyone passes the QAFP examination on their first attempt. For candidates that were previously unsuccessful on an FP Canada exam, in addition to the preparation strategies we've already shared, here are some additional tips to consider. Review that diagnostic feedback from your previous attempt to understand your areas of strength and weakness. Consider that performance while also considering how components are weighted on the exam, which are noted on the exam blueprint. Spend more time preparing and studying in those financial planning function and component areas that showed weaker results for you. You may also find it helpful to revisit the competency profile and exam blueprint as you review your diagnostic feedback and as you prepare for the exam. Allow enough time to implement a good study program. Plan your study prep time and incorporate it into your weekly routine. Do not leave it all to the last weeks before the exam. Consider your previous study habits and assess what worked for you and what didn't. Try some different methods, like a study group with colleagues, creating storyboards for competency statements, a different time or setting for studying, or a refresh of some of your materials. And of course, prepare and practice using competency-based assessment material like financial planning case studies. The QAFP examination is a pass or fail examination. The goal of the QAFP examination is to determine if you meet the requirements of competence to earn the QAFP certification. We use industry-accepted psychometric methodologies to determine what the pass mark of the exam is, based on the expected standards of competence. The process we use ensures every exam candidate is measured equitably and fairly, even though each exam contains different questions between exam administrations. This is not a bell curve exam, but what is referred to as a criterion referenced exam, where the level of competence expected is consistent from one exam to another. Thus, all candidates have to meet the established standard, which is the same for each exam. This methodology is commonly accepted practice in the credentialing field for similar high-stakes certification exams. It allows us the confidence of knowing that every QAFP certificate is meeting the same industry-defined standard of competence. Paulette will now share information about sample questions.
Thanks, Bernard. We have 3 sample questions for review here to help you get familiar with competency-based questions and their complexity assignment. There are 22 standalone multiple choice sample questions and 1 sample case study available on the FP Canada website through your dashboard. These are useful tools to help you prepare for the exam, so please access them to review and familiarize yourself even more with the types of questions to expect on the QAFP exam. This first question is about Alex's life insurance policy and his coverage after a health event. This is a competency-based question because you need to apply your knowledge about term life insurance. To arrive at the correct solution for this question, you need to understand Alex's current coverage and the features of that coverage. You'll note that only 3 options are presented, and you are to choose the best answer. The correct answer is C, be eligible to convert to a permanent policy without a health assessment. This question has a basic complexity assignment since it just deals with one topic, insurance. In answering this question, Insurance and Risk Management Competency 1.109 collects information regarding the client's existing insurance coverage has been demonstrated. We can also see here how the question is tied to the body of knowledge. This question is testing knowledge on Area 11, Insurance, and the subtopic Foundations of Life Insurance. A basic complexity is assigned because the question is dealing with just one topic with no integration needed from other planning areas. Let's look at the second question now. This next question is from our pool of sample items about Ken and Rachel, some assets, and Ken's minimizing tax goal. This question demonstrates estate planning and law for financial planning competency 3.117, which reads, recommends optimal estate planning strategies. Option C is the correct response. As we previously noted, professional skills are an element of at least 25% of questions on the exam. Here, we can see that this question has an assignment of professional skill 206, assesses and compares options to arrive at a recommendation. In correctly answering the question, the candidate is demonstrating this professional skill. This question has a moderate complexity assignment since a wider breadth of knowledge is required here. So let's take a look at one more question. This question requires a two-step time value of money calculation. Step 1 is to collect the RIF balance at age 71 to meet his planned RIF income to age 90. And step 2 is to calculate the RSP funding required to reach that RIF balance at age 71. This is a calculation-heavy question and has been assigned a high complexity rating. This question demonstrates competency 2.221, considers potential retirement income strategies, which is a retirement planning task and an analysis function. The correct response for this question is option A. Based on the calculations, he will need to increase his annual RSP contribution room to meet his RIF income objective. This question also has an ethical component with option B. Option B would not be suitable for the client based on his low investment risk tolerance and would be a breach of Rule 22 of FP Canada's Standards of Professional Responsibility, which states that recommendations are to be both prudent and appropriate for the client. This question can also be tied to a professional skill, critical thinking, skill 205, assesses and compares options to arrive at a recommendation. In addition to the free sample questions available at the website, we do offer the QAFP exam practice exam, which can be another valuable study tool to help you prepare for writing the exam. There are multiple choice and constructed response questions available through your FP Canada dashboard. To access the sample questions, log in to the FP Canada dashboard, click on Exam on the side navigation bar, and select QAFP exam sample study questions and QAFP exam sample case study. The sample exam questions include a mix of multiple choice and constructed response questions, and some will require calculations.
FP Canada offers the FP Canada practice exam for the QAFP examination to help you prepare. It can be purchased when you register to write the QAFP examination. With the practice exam, you can become familiar with the type of questions used on the exam structure and blueprint weightings, as well as the use of the computer-based software for the exam. It is available for $125 plus applicable taxes when purchased with exam registration, or for $150 plus applicable taxes if purchased after you have registered for the exam by accessing the link through your portal. The QAFP examination practice exam can be written only once, but can be done over multiple sittings to a maximum time period of 6 hours. We recommend you begin your review of the practice exam early and no later than 1 month prior to the exam to maximize the value of this tool, but also encourage you to allot, if you can, a 3-hour window to complete the practice exam. This will help you simulate the experience of the actual time of the live QAFP examination. We also suggest that you open your practice exam when you purchase it to ensure that there are no technical difficulties in accessing it and in answering the questions. When you have completed the practice exam, a diagnostic feedback report will be provided as shown on the slide here. It shows your performance in the various financial planning functions and areas based on the blueprint. There will be areas of strength and perhaps areas of weaker performance. By doing the practice exam early, you will have an opportunity to identify and focus on these weaker areas, the ones where further review may be required. However, it is very important to consider this performance in the context of the exam blueprint. You can review the diagnostic report up until exam day. Also note that the exam questions and possible answers are provided at the bottom of the diagnostic report with rationales explaining each option. You will see which answers you had right and which ones were incorrect. In a survey of exam candidates, many who purchased the practice exam responded that they felt better prepared to write an FP Canada exam, were more familiar with the exam software, and felt the practice exam diagnostic report provided useful feedback on their performance. Although these are different questions than the one on your actual exam, the practice exam uses retired questions from previous exams and is designed to meet the blueprint, meaning that it meets the weighting ranges for each financial planning function, area, and level of complexity. Also remember that you are completing the practice exam in a setting which is different than the actual exam day experience, so the practice exam should not be used as a predictor of exam success. We're often asked about study tips and the do's and don'ts when it comes to preparing for and writing the exam. I am now going to run through a few pointers to help improve your success in writing the QAFP examination. There are two main factors we observed which can impact your exam performance and stress level: time management and reading the questions carefully. In terms of time management, some candidates may allot too much time to one case or one question. Candidates can overthink a question or spend too much time trying to answer one question. Remember, each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark, so spending too much time on one question may limit the ability to get to all questions and could result in missing marks. The other factor that can impact exam performance is making sure you carefully read the question. Candidates sometimes jump to conclusions when reading a question and the options presented. Candidates sometimes will go to the most attractive or obvious answer. In selecting your answer, verify that your chosen response uses the facts presented in the scenario and that it meets the client's stated objective.
So here are some tips. We recommend you develop a time management strategy before arriving at the exam. In the exam environment, we indicate the number of multiple choice questions presented. Typically, there are about 70 standalone multiple choice questions and 3 case study narratives with approximately 4 to 6 multiple choice questions each, so up to about 90 questions. You will have 3 hours or 180 minutes to complete the exam. If you use about 15 minutes to read each case study narrative, that leaves you 135 minutes to answer the up to 90 questions, so you have an average time of just 1.5 minutes per question. Some questions will take more time and some will take less time. You always need to be mindful of the work ahead and the time available. The exam software has a clock showing the time remaining to keep you aware, and each multiple choice question on the exam is worth 1 mark. So you might want to consider getting your marks first by answering as many questions as possible and bookmarking the questions that may take more time to answer so that you may come back to them. If you take too much time at the beginning of the exam section on the more challenging questions for you, you could run out of time and not get to those questions that were areas of strength for you. Another option might be to start with the case study narratives and their related questions first, and the exam software will allow you to move around to any question within your exam session. Again, we want to emphasize the importance of reading the question completely, ensuring you understand what is being asked. And when looking at the 3 options presented, keep the question scenario in mind and select the most appropriate options. always considering the client's goals or ways to meet the client's objectives. The incorrect options are made to be plausible to the client's scenario and could apply in a different situation than the one presented, but are not the best answer for the scenario presented.
All the materials we've discussed today and more are available on the FP Canada website as linked on this page.
This concludes the webinar. Thank you for your time. Please visit the website fpcanada.ca and go to your dashboard to access the sample exam questions or to purchase the QAFP exam practice exam. If you have any questions about the exam, please email us at info@fpcanada.ca and we will respond. Enjoy the rest of your day.